first verse, Gimel, is when the poor person or the orphan or the widow, whatever it is, brings the case. Listen to their case. The second one is when the other side, the powerful or the wealthy, bring the case. In that case, paltu dal ve'avyon miyad rishayim hatzilu. You have an obligation to save them when they are being overshadowed or oppressed by the rich and powerful. So in other words, in the first case, make sure you listen to them when they bring a case. And when the rich guy brings the case, that's verse 4, make sure they have a chance to respond. Everyone see the difference between the two verses? The first one is they should have the right to come to court to initiate justice. And number 2, they should have the right to be heard. And I want you to know there were many societies where the only people who could initiate justice were people that had a certain amount of land or property. That was actually true in England for a long time, okay? You couldn't bring a case to court unless you had a certain amount of wealth. So these verses are specifically addressing that issue. Number 1, listen to them when they allow them to bring their cases. And number 2, allow them to answer charges against them. Please.
You almost weren't a citizen.
Right. You weren't a citizen. No, voting also was connected to owning land or paying certain taxes, having a certain amount of assets. Otherwise, you couldn't vote. And that was, a terrible situation that looks like some states in America are repeating, that they're making it very hard for some people to vote. So that's the first part of the poem. The first part of the poem is this vision of how things should be. When you read the first 4 verses, you should see, it's not being fulfilled, but you should see this vision of what a just society looks like. Everybody is protected by the law. All are equal before the law. Okay? Everyone sees that for the first 4 verses? Now comes verse Hey. And now he's addressing the judges. Lo yad'u velo yavinu b'chashecha yitalechu. They don't know. They don't understand. In darkness, they are walking. Why are they in darkness? Why can't they understand? The Torah tells us what can cause the ignorance of judges. And it's a pasuk in Devarim. And the pasuk says, it's right at the beginning of Parsha Shoftim, which talks about Shoftim v'Shotrim titelecha. You got to have judges and court officials, whether Shotrim means police or bailiffs or whatever it might mean, okay? But the second verse is, Lo tatem mishpat, lo takir panim. Do not twist or tilt justice, and you should not recognize the people that come before you. Velo tikach shochad. Never take bribes. Why? Ki hashochad ya'aver einei chachamim v'salef divrei tzadikim. Because bribes blind the eyes of the chachamim, the scholarly. Here, my translation is discerning, the smart, the intelligent. Okay, and visalef, and takes away the plea, takes away the justice, the words or the matters of justice. So when you look at verse Hey, and you say, all of a sudden, these judges who were godlike in verse Aleph, how come now they're blind? They took bribes. Verse Hey specifically specifically means that that they were perverted by power, money, whatever. And therefore, they have become blind. Now, the expression justice is blind has certain merit to it, and that means you're not supposed to recognize. Here, we're saying justice is blind. It doesn't see, it's walking in darkness, not because it's wearing a blindfold so it doesn't recognize who's sitting in front of it, like the famous statue of justice in front of the United States Supreme Court. Here, it's become blinded by power, wealth, bribery, all sorts of issues other than the case in front of them. What does that do? Yimotu kol mosdei aretz. The entire foundations of the earth are shaken by this. Yimotu, they're out of balance. The entire world depends on justice. How do we know that? Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said it. In the last, what? In Pirkei Avot. The last Mishnah in the first chapter of Pirkei Avot says, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, the Rashbag says, Al shlosha dvarim ha'olam kayam. The world continues to exist only because of the presence of three concerns: al ha'emet, al hadin, al hashalom, justice, truth, and I'm going to say peace, but shalom means much more than peace. It means an equanimity in society, where society has shlemut, completion, that different parts of society are not pushed away, that everybody's included. Shalom has this concept of inclusiveness, not just the idea of peace is a matter of is it like a parish on shalom. Shalom means that the society is whole, shlemut, complete. These are the three things. Again, din, emet, and shalom. And what happens, therefore, if you don't have din, emet, and shalom? Yimotu kol mosdei aretz. The entire foundations of the world are shaken, collapsing. Now, I want to mention kol mosdei aretz. In modern Hebrew, mosdei, a Mossad is an institution, right? Like Mossad Rav Kook. It didn't mean that here. Here it meant the foundations of the world. It didn't. But you could say, that even the institutions of society, right? The institutions of government and society could also become, shaken and fall as a result of this, but that's not what it means. Here it literally means the foundations of the earth. The earth is crumbling beneath our feet because of this. And Chazal believed their metaphor to have tremendous truth. Tremendous truth. The earth can only exist if we have justice. So that's the centerpiece of the poem. And it says that the world is in danger because of you people. And now the poet, Asaph, in this beautiful psalm, expresses his disappointment. Ani amarti, Elohim atem. I said, in verse 1, right? I just said it in verse 1, but I've been saying it my whole life. My whole life has been looking up to you people. You people are gods. Ubnei elyon kulchem. All of you are superior beings from on high. The judges are supposed to sit higher than the litigants on purpose, because they represented the connection to heaven. I viewed you as second only to God. I had tremendous faith, respect, awe for you and your institution. You could have lived forever. You could have been immortal. How are people immortal? Well, Asaph is immortal. In other words, this is immortality. You could have been engraved in the stone of civilization forever. You judges, you had the power to live forever. But, verse Zion, does everyone see the power in that verse 6? What his heart is broken over the situation. Achen, but nevertheless, however, ka'adam temuton, you're going to die like regular people. Uka'achad hasarim tipolu, and you're going to fall just like those powerful people who thought they could live forever. You're going to fall like this. When I read this line, ka'achad hasarim tipolu, like one of those officers, generals, politicians, you're going to fall and descend. You were supposed to be above them. You were supposed to be the check on society for corruption and for power grabs. And instead, you just became like them. When I read this last line, or this last phrase in line 7, I think of the poem Ozymandias from Ozymandias, okay, who it's a sonnet by Shelley, in which he goes in the desert and he sees this huge statue which is crumbled and broken, and on the pedestal he pushes away the sand and reads the pedestal and says, "Look on with awe, you lowly mortal. I live forever." And of course, it's a ruin. It's a ruin. When I think of that poem and I think of this line, what do I think of? Remember in the 50s when all of the statues of Stalin were pulled down, and some of these statues were like hundreds of feet high. One of the largest statues in the world was the statue of Stalin. They just pulled it down. And then it happened again, of course, with Saddam Hussein, that they pulled down all the statues. And I think of this poem, as being, and all of this is ka'achad hasarim tipolu, like those people who thought that they had immortality because of their power, because of their wealth, because of all of their earthly stuff. They were wrong. You're wrong. You blew it just like they did. You could have lived forever. You could have been a contender. You could have really done it. And now there's nothing. It's nothing. It's gone. Where you could have stood as a pillar for the future of humanity, instead it's a bleak, desolate horizon. So instead, I'm sorry?
What does this mean then?
And like one of those powerful people, who are the powerful people? The ones that bribed you. It's a reference back to the Rishaim. Those powerful people, you're going to fall. You're going to fall. You're going to be nothing. You could have been something, and now you're going to be nothing. You're going to be forgotten in the mists of history, when you could have written history. You could have been history. Look at the last word in Pasuk Zion. Those people, tipolu, fell. Look at the first word in verse Chet. No coincidence here. Kuma Elokim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, get up. We need you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In other words, the poem, Aleph through Zion, has 3 parts to it. His dream, his disappointment, and his chastisement, okay? And then he ends with a prayer. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, all we got left is you. It's all on you, Akash Baruch. Kuma, get up, arise, come back. We need you. Your appointees didn't do the job. Kuma Elokim, get up. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets up, then hopefully you get to the vision in the first sentence, which is Elokim Nitzav Ba'adat Kel. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is standing in the community of the divine. So in other words, get up, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because if you get up, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then maybe we can get back to what we really wanted. Shafta ha'aretz, judge the land. Ki atat tinchal bechol hagoyim. Because you are the possessors. Everything is your nachala throughout the entirety of humanity. You really are the owner. You're the balabayit. And I'm sorry, I got to pray to you, God, to take charge, because your appointees, they just messed up. It's just a mess. The world is a shambles. The world is shaking, ready to be destroyed, because one of the major pillars, or the major pillar of society, has been removed. Justice. Without justice, nothing can prevail.
So it's a bit like one of the judges in Israel was found texting the prosecution recently, and she was disbarred.
Correct. That's the way it should be. That she should be thrown out in her ear. That's terrible. I mean, but it's a sad reality that Asaf is talking about. This is only Kadosh Baruch Hu can redress the imbalance. Okay, so we went through the poem, perhaps more quickly than we should have, because I do want to finish it today. But now we have to deal with the problem of, why is this the Psalm for Tuesday? What's this got to do with Tuesday? And what's interesting is, as I said at the beginning, is I would have chosen, what do I know? But I would have chosen this to be read either on Monday or Thursday, which were the days traditionally when Jewish courts sat. But instead, Chazal, or perhaps the Levium and the Beit HaMikdash, I'm going to give credit to Chazal, but we're not sure who established the Psalms of the day. We say that Shabo Hayu HaLeviim Omrim B'Beit HaMikdash. It may have been the Levium who decided which poem should be recited, or it may have been Chazal, we're not sure, but we know that these poems were recited with the daily Korban. So why this one for Tuesday? Please. I'm going to mention that in a minute. That's not a traditional answer, but I like it.
I thought maybe because there was so much greatness on that day, and here just...
I'm going to agree with you in about 5 minutes, but it's not one of the traditional answers. But I like it. I like it very much. I'm going to come to that hopefully in about 3 minutes. I love the Koran Siddur. Okay, but the Koran Siddur before every psalm says a little piece. It says, Mizmor Zeh Ne'emah B'Yom Shlishi. We say this poem, this psalm, on Tuesday. Kevon. Why? Shekiyum ha'aretz, the continued existence of the world, talui b'shmirat mishpatei haTorah. The continued existence of the world is dependent upon the justice of our Torah. Kamoshe katuv v'mizmar, as is written in this poem. What's that got to do with Tuesday? What that has to do with Tuesday, and he's quoting a Gemara from Rosh Hashanah, and what this has to do with Tuesday is we have to look at what was created on Tuesday. What was created on Tuesday? So on Tuesday we've got Vayom Elokim yikvu hamayim mitachat hashamayim el makom echad. Let all the waters gather in one place. We call that the oceans, okay? V'tere'eh hayabashah. And the dry land should become seen. In other words, the Mosdot Haaretz were established on Tuesday. So Tuesday is the day when the kiyum of our world became real. Now, as before that, it was a mishmash. You know, it was islands and ocean, and you couldn't get from one place to another. There was no continuity. There was no stability of the continents of the world. Okay? God called the dry land, and he called the gathering of waters the seas. And he saw that it was good. And then what makes the land even more stable is let deshe come out. Let grass come out. You know, let there be vegetation. So, and then he says kitov. And it's the only day that God says kitov. Twice. I'm going to come back to that in about 2 minutes. This is very cute, and I never knew this before I started preparing for this poem. I saw it in 2 different sources, and I think it's not just cute. I think it's really cool. What are the 3 things that Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says make the world kayam, continue to exist? Din, shalom, and emet. Dalid, shin, aleph are the first letters of those 3 words, which is deshe. Deshe was created on Tuesday. And deshe doesn't only mean grass, vegetation. It also means din, shalom, emet. And so since the world is kayam because of din, shalom, and emet, according to the Rashbag, that's Tuesday. I had never seen that until my preparation. Most of the things I'm saying are things I had thought of before, or I worked on before. This idea was new to me. Also, I think it's beautiful, and it reminds us of the connection between creation and the world in which we want to live. Please. We just had that, and I'm going to say this now. I didn't see anyone say this. And it's very nice that both of you said it. I think personally that this is one of the reasons that this is the poem for Tuesday is because it's a warning. It's a warning about Tuesday. Tuesday is the most optimistic day of the week. It's the Yom Shehuchpal Bo Kitov. It's the only day in creation where God said, and it was good twice. There's a minhag in Judaism to start new projects on Tuesday. I know that there are schools that begin their school year only on Tuesday.
To get married on Tuesday.
People get married on Tuesday for this reason. I want you to know when I was an Ola Chadash, and we had to move from Merkaz Klita to a new house, which was then in Moshav Elazar in the Gush, and we had to get a mover. So we called Achim Yakovi, and I wanted to move on Monday. And the guy on the other end of the phone, now he probably just had openings on Tuesday. But he's saying, no, you want to move on Tuesday. Yom Shehuch Babo Kitov. So I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm the rabbi. This is the truck driver. And he's giving me musar about what the heck should travel. And I said, okay, you win. I don't know which of the brothers you are, but you win, okay? So we moved on Tuesday. And I'm sorry? Yeah. Achim Yaakov, it's the Jacobi family, Yaakovi. No, I don't know which brother was on the phone. But I accepted the musar. And it was, for me, it was a beautiful introduction to the way Medinat Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael is supposed to be, that we think differently. As we think, how should I do things? Well, there's a tradition, and that's how we do it. It's not just we just think about bottom line. We think about, oh, there's a traditional way of doing things. And I found it very, very moving. And I mean, we're talking about something that happened in 1983, and I remember it like it's happening again. So it's a beautiful idea. And that's why I'm agreeing with both of you. I think that it's a warning. We think of Tuesday as a day with tremendous potential. Then you look at our poem, look what can happen to potential when you don't use it correctly. I think it's a musar for people that think, oh, if I do it on Tuesday, it's automatically going to work. No, it doesn't work that way. Everything has to be done with the right kavanah, has to be done with the right intent, with the right spirituality. You have to have, has to be motivated by Torah and midot and emet, and that's why that's why it's a Psalm for Tuesday, in my opinion, and I thank you too for agreeing with me. I want to end, as I'm running out of time here, with an idea. Remember I said it toward the beginning, if it were up to me, every judge in the world would have to read this poem every Tuesday. Judges are tremendously powerful and intellectual and influential, and it's very important that they fulfill that misima, that assignment, right? And sometimes when they don't, it's a disappointment. And I think that makes it's such a beautiful word, disappointment, because judges tend to be appointed. And when it doesn't work out, it's a disappointment. And it's like it like fits in that the appointment turned into a disappointment. And my favorite example of this is one of the movies that had a tremendous influence on me. It came out in 1961, and it was called Judgment in Nuremberg, and it came out right after Eichmann Yamach Shemo was captured by the Mossad, back to that word Mossad, in South America, and then brought back to Eretz Yisrael. And I was 11 years old, and I didn't know much about the Holocaust at that point. And the combination of the capture of Eichmann and all of the news that came out, and this movie opened my eyes to what a disaster, what a tremendous event the Holocaust was. Before that, my only knowledge of the Holocaust was the Diary of Anne Frank, which was bad, but wasn't necessarily an earth-shaking. The end of that movie is amazing. That movie it's worth seeing again. The Judgment at Nuremberg. And the stars of the movie were two of my favorite stars, Burt Lancaster and Spencer Tracy. And Burt Lancaster plays a judge in the Nazi judicial system, and he had been the most respected judge in Germany before the war, and he became a judge for the Third Reich. And Spencer Tracy is the judge who's judging him for the Allied powers. He was an American judge from Middle America. And, Spencer Tracy was like the simple, you think of like a Harry Truman type character, He seems simple, but he's the real possessor of truth and wisdom, right? And Burt Lancaster is this impressive, scholar, respected judge who was a professor in the university and wrote books and whatever. At the end of the movie, Burt Lancaster requests that Spencer Tracy visit him in jail after he's been found guilty. And he says, I just want you to know. This is the quote. Those millions of people, I never knew it would come to that. I just want you to know. Spencer Tracy, the last line in the movie. It came to that the first time you sentenced an innocent man to death. one injustice is enough to destroy the world. That's our Paul. That's a very powerful message. Okay, everyone should have a wonderful week. Shavua Tov.
Rabbi, what is the most of the trial?